With its exponential growth, Tesla is experiencing growing pains, especially with the Giga Shanghai lockdowns and supply chain issues, as well as high material costs. Stay tuned to find out more about it and some of the solar roof updates. In the second week of June, markets remained quiet with Tesla with a price of $703.55, while the Nasdaq was down 9%. In this note, it seems that there isn't anything too exciting to report, as it's just the same stuff about Giga Shanghai going down in the second quarter, and hopefully re-ramping and joining Berlin and Texas. There is nothing too notable there, but this is the second time in the last 2 weeks that we have seen analysts at the higher end of the price target scale hold their targets. In speaking about Shanghai, we're referring broadly to the city's reopening, but it has been evolving. Since we've talked about things going in phases, as of June 1st, it appears that Shanghai will be making significant changes that will bring things closer to normal after cases have continued to decline, with 29 new cases in the last week of May. Specifically, Shanghai recently announced an action plan to help accelerate the economic recovery and revitalization. This plan mentions a few sections that are relevant to Tesla. For instance, it mentions that there will be support for automobile and integrated circuit companies, and efforts to encourage upstream and downstream companies to collaborate for more stable supply chains and to improve the overall production rate of enterprises. So it's no big surprise to see manufacturing has been a top priority for Shanghai as it has moved through these phases. Moreover, they note they will clarify logistics and transportation channels on a national and international level, and work with foreign-funded enterprises to resume production and operations. Moreover, they say they will vigorously promote automobile consumption and offer a financial subsidy of 10,000 yuan per pure electric car. That's about $1,500, and Tesla appears to be already promoting the subsidy as of June 1st, so it'll be in place very quickly. Even though it appears one would have to trade in another non-Tesla car to qualify for this. However, one thing that more orders can do is allow Tesla to choose higher-end vehicles to deliver first, which may result in a lower average selling price. Furthermore, it probably makes people more inclined to order expensive vehicles in the first place than they otherwise would. Further, Tesla may not be facing a decline in orders, but it can still benefit the company. Anyway, based on all of this, I think the main takeaway is that it is becoming increasingly clear that Shanghai is moving incredibly quickly to make up for the lost time, and if cases remain down, which is a crucial factor, it could result in some seriously strong productivity. Also, there's plenty to be excited about with Shanghai, but on Giga Shanghai, and a report from Reuters saying that Tesla has declared restored weekly output added Shanghai plan to nearly 70% of the level which it had operated at before the city's COVID-19 lockdowns, according to two people familiar with the matter. Although this might seem to contradict what we discussed, which was that Shanghai had hit 2,500 vehicles per day, it's not necessarily contradictory since it could be referring to a weekly output number that might sound reasonably accurate, as Tesla had not ramped up to a double shift until about the midweek. Thus, we'll have to wait and see, but we should have a better understanding of this once the CPCA releases the production numbers for May later next week. Next, let's talk about the new 9,000-ton GigaPress casting machines of both groups that have been teasing us the past few days. Nevertheless, Elon ended up responding to a video about their house opening on Twitter by saying Cybertruck body. There we have it. So now we know that the 9,000-ton machine is for Tesla, which we thought based on the previous colors. Also confirmed is the Cybertruck, which Tesla previously said would be an 8,000-ton casting machine. The 9,000-ton casting machine mentioned a year ago or two has now been taken to the next level. Additionally, IDRA appeared to be very close to being fully operational at the open house on June 6th, which is very exciting for the Cybertruck. Similarly, we should look back at the timelines from casting machine installation to first deliveries for previous Model Y ramp-ups. While it might not offer entirely conclusive evidence, it might give us a sense of the Cybertruck production date. In the meantime, Drew Baglino's thoughts were that he's excited that the collective human psyche is finally on board with electrifying everything. But there is a lot more to do from a regulatory perspective. But there is momentum. In some of his points, He implied that this has become more relevant right now because historically, other industries have been able to meet the battery industry's needs. Hence, the raw materials and supply chain for today's battery consumption has just kind of existed. Particularly, he noted that lithium and graphite were sorts of side businesses for petrochemical companies, but it was also something that could support a much smaller battery industry that is now growing much larger, which introduces new needs. Therefore, Drew said about the situation that they're no longer there, and they are required to invest in their own lives. In addition, it is noted that the time was right to reassess what you're investing in. Additionally, he said that given the growth the industry was seeing, it wasn't clear what was being said by either industry or Tesla, but they had reached the point where exponential growth became painful. This is approaching the law of large numbers. It is fairly easy to multiply from 5 units to 10 units. However, to multiply from 1 million to 2 million units is a lot more challenging. While maintaining those growth rates become more challenging as those numbers grow, this is an interesting period to observe. Moreover, it also demonstrates the importance of impact, which we are now beginning to see become greater. Furthermore, it is bringing economic incentives with it to move massive amounts of capital towards things that promote, rather than things that adversely affect growth. The perfect example was Elon telling people to get into the lithium business on the last earnings call. Anyhow, that led to a lot of discussion about mining to keep up with growth. Further, there was an acknowledgement that the fundamental bottleneck is not gigafactories nor battery factories, but rather raw materials, underlining that lithium is the biggest risk at the moment, noting sodium might be able to help with that if it becomes a viable alternative that could be taken up by the vehicles. Nevertheless, Drew gave an example of a battery factory that, from applying for permits to ramping up production, might take 2.5 years. However, the last lithium mine in Nevada took 10 years to be able to operate. Moreover, Drew implied that government intervention could be extremely beneficial in this area. Thus, improving that process urgently can have massive ramifications, which is why it's great to see Tesla discussing the issue. And this is why Tesla has such a long-term view. For at least the last 2 years, the company has been thinking about getting to 20 million vehicles a year. And now, regarding solar roofs, Drew was asked about the solar roofs and said that his basic impressions were that the shingles themselves. Even though Tesla designed the solar shingle to be easy to build and not expensive, he added that with the solar roof, the firm put a lot of effort into making sure it was easy to build. Instead, the focus is on making the job all the more simple by not spending too much time doing the stuff around the shingles. This isn't surprising, but it's also good to reaffirm the fact that the product itself is in a good spot from a technical standpoint. In a way, that's also funny, since it's also very similar to the situation where they spent most of their time practicing what they wanted to accomplish. But then, some of those things crept in and made it weaker. In response to a question from an audience member asking whether Tesla is still committed to the solar roof, Musk said that he could not provide any opinion about a commitment since he's not directly involved with it, but that it should happen and the shingles are good. So, what are your thoughts about this? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe with a post notification so you don't miss out on Tesla Era.